So, tell me what you do.
I'm a school teacher.
You teach students, kids? You teach the kids?
I teach music, yeah.
So, is that all that you do?
I'm a flute player and composer and conductor and amateur lover of the Italian language, sometime translator from Italian to English. I don't do it the other way because translating from English to Italian would be very hard for me, although I could do it, but it would probably come out as kind of strange American inflected Italian.
Why did you start doing music? When did it start for you?
Well, it was sort of decided for me by my parents, because when I was aged 4, my parents decided that I should play the accordion so that I could sort of be a jolly fellow at family gatherings and everything like that, you know, entertaining. And the only thing they forgot was that we really didn't have enough family in this country to have family gatherings. So that rationale was sort of invalidated, but I was too young and innocent to think of bringing that up as a way of weaseling out of the accordion lessons. So I began taking accordion lessons in Cedar Rapids, Iowa at the age of 4. That would have been 1942, I guess, with a man named Elmer Young. He was the only person in Cedar Rapids who taught accordion, and he was a local band leader. And I guess he had some sort of a swing band or dance band or something. I don't remember a thing about him. I don't remember what he looked like. I do remember traveling to and from his house in Cedar Rapids, because my mother and I had to ride a couple of buses. I think we took one bus from where we lived in Marion to Cedar Rapids and then transferred to another bus to get to his neighborhood, lugging this child-size accordion around. So I just remember kind of long trips with her. You know, I do remember at least one piece of music I learned from Elmer Young, a Czech song called the Prune Song, playing which I won one of the Wrath Talent Review contest competitions when I was 5, I guess. And then they would have finals every 6 weeks. They would have the winners of each week compete in a finals, and alas, I didn't take the big prize, but people thought I was quite cute playing the accordion when I was 5.
When did music start being enjoyable for you?
Oh, it's never been enjoyable. But for some reason I got bitten by the bug and really wanted to be a musician when I was a sophomore in high school, so I would have been 15. And it happened quite suddenly. I had begun playing the flute in 6th grade, so I guess I was 11. And was as lackadaisical about it as I was about the accordion. That is, practicing it as little as possible and relying upon my native talent to get by. And then, very strangely, one day in the fall of my sophomore year in high school, I guess 1953, I was overtaken by a strong desire to practice my flute. And so I practiced for 2 hours, and I had to stop finally because my lips gave out on me. But I don't know why I was overcome by this desire to excel as a flutist, but it sort of came on me, and it's understandable. I think at that age, young people are searching for something or a place for themselves, and I had no place for myself in school, but because I wasn't an athlete and I wasn't particularly gregarious or outgoing, so I wasn't one of the cool kids. And you just about had to be an athlete or a cheerleader to be cool anyway. Growing up in Iowa in the 1940s and 50s, athletics were a big part of life in schools. And there were different groups. I mean, there were the farmer kids who were in FFA, Future Farmers of America, and did farmer things. And there were the hot rod boys, and there were the, jocks and cheerleaders and stuff like that. And there were the band kids. I realized, we were a nerdy bunch even before the word nerd had been invented, probably. But we did sort of band together, and we knew that we were far from the elite of the school, but we did take our little activities seriously and competed in different kinds of contests. And with me, maybe it was a competitive thing too. That, in fact, I remember part of what was driving me was that I wanted to get a first rating at state contest as a flute soloist, and in my chamber music groups and things. And so I really practiced that sophomore year, and I still only got a 2 rating that year, which didn't discourage me. I just kept. What did Beckett say? If you fail, keep failing, only fail better. So I just kept plunging ahead, and then my junior year I played the Mozart, a movement of the Mozart G major flute concerto, and I got a first. So that was encouraging. And then meanwhile I started studying flute with a lady who had been a professional flutist in the Minneapolis Symphony, and she was inspiring and supportive. So I just drifted, without knowing it or thinking about it, toward what I thought of as a career as a flutist.
And then what happened? Tell me about your career as a flutist.
Well, I have had one, and still with a 10-year hiatus from about 1993 to 2005, or a 12-year hiatus. Still am a flutist, and but I got interested in other things, in writing music and in conducting it too, which probably overall is not the smartest thing to do professionally, because you're hard for people to categorize or pin down, and as a result, and moreover, you're dividing your energies too. So and as a composer, you're being measured against other people who are full-time composers, and I'm. Most of my life I've been a part-time composer, or as a flutist you're measured against all the other full-time flutists. So it's, I'm not sure I'd encourage anybody to be, try to be a multiple threat person, unless they just feel compelled to. One of my heroes growing up was, I became a great baseball fan when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and became a big fan of the Cleveland Indians. I don't know why. Maybe because they were winning. They won the American League title in 1948 and beat the Boston Braves in the World Series, I think 4-2. And they were led by a guy named Lou Boudreau, who was both their all-star shortstop, very good on defense, and he led, I think he led the American League in batting. And he was also simultaneously the manager of the team. So that idea of being a playing manager, for some reason, appealed to me. Not just being on the sidelines, kind of, pulling the strings of the marionettes, but actually being in the game, but also sort of directing the game from your end. So, that's why I enjoy conducting, I think, because the conductor doesn't make a sound, but he certainly leads and shapes the performance, and thus is part of it. I think overall my feeling just was these things all interest me in a vital, intense way, and so I don't see why I should deprive myself of entering into them.
What about composing? What is it about writing music that interests you?
Well, it's not so much, self-expression or finding, as people sometimes say, my voice. I think it's very easy to find your voice. I mean, I think what's harder is to lose yourself in the music and perhaps go beyond your very limited voice, and perhaps do, if you're lucky and if you apply yourself and don't give up, why perhaps to go beyond what you thought was possible, what you'd done before, maybe what other people had done too, in some small or some large way.
What about, you said you do music for music's sake and not necessarily for a popular audience?
Well, I mean, yeah, the idea of, certainly everything I do in music, I would like many people to hear, and I would like them to, somehow feel that it enlarges their life and their perception of life. But I'm not, doesn't seem to be part of my constitution to want to sort of worry about, well, what is it that people will like, or that the most people will like? And then once I figure that out, I'll just do that. I mean, by watching what audiences respond to, I can get a pretty good idea of what people like. But for instance, in my career as an orchestra conductor, I felt both that I needed to give people what they liked, because if I didn't, they'd stop coming to the concerts. At the same time, I felt I and my orchestra needed to be a kind of leader too. I felt a kind of responsibility to expose people to new experiences and music that I and we believed in, and that they might find unusual or provocative at first, but again, that would sort of clear some new space in their imaginations and consciousness. And again, because I, didn't go the usual conducting route and didn't go to conducting school, great conductors school, I was under, no compulsion to, sort of build a traditional career. And I kind of think in all my three areas of music, and maybe even four, because I've written about music too, and written CD liner notes and things. I think in all of these, I kind of approach things more as an amateur, that is, somebody who's doing it out of love rather than out of trying to climb some sort of a professional ladder.
And what about the contemporary music? What happened in the 60s?
Well,
Was the highlight in some respects of your career, the most notoriety that you got?
Well, yeah, I think when I was in my 20s and moved to New York City from Iowa, and just through all those things that cannot be planned, just through serendipity, finding certain people who kind of, shared, not just shared feelings I had about music, but, who I was able to learn from. And we were able to mutually support each other in doing some things that had not been done before. It was possible to start a series of contemporary music, and I think composers of my age at that time, many of us felt that what had been sort of the standards for American musical composition during the 40s and the 50s, and had sort of run out of gas. They were not, there were composers who I certainly admired, but at the same time there was a new musical wind blowing, and especially in the aftermath of World War II, where wars don't just knock buildings down and change lives, but they also change ideas. And I think after a huge knockdown, drag-out, terrible war, many people were looking for something maybe that was uncorrupted or that was not tainted. And certainly I and my generation in this country didn't have the same experience as young European composers our age who, had bombs fall on them and, didn't have enough to eat and stuff like that. But, I think we were part of a kind of worldwide movement to open the door to exploring new dimensions of music, or dimensions that hadn't been explored or maybe even thought of. And so there was a certain element of experimentalism in this, but I always, had the feeling that I was building on my musical background and common sense, so that when I experimented, it was something that was not just experiment for the sake of experiment, but something that was constantly being measured and calibrated in terms of the musical result, as I perceived it. But coming back to what you said a little earlier, I think there is room. Music has many mansions, and I think some of the big ballrooms in the mansion of music are places where people congregate to enjoy music in huge public events, whether they're rock concerts or opera performances or symphony orchestra concerts. And sometimes there are smaller little cubbyholes where people might be producing music which is not so much for the broad public, but for a smaller group of cognoscenti. Music that to a certain degree maybe is about music, and insofar as I can analyze or self-analyze myself, I think, based on the reception my music has received over the years, I think it's not particularly regarded as crowd-pleasing or accessible, and I certainly don't set out to make it that way. At the same time, as I said earlier, I'd certainly be happy if many people listened to it or chose to listen to it, and moreover, if they liked it. And sometimes I get quite annoyed at various aspects of its reception. But either I could give up or I can just keep going. But I like that quote from Beckett: not just fail, but if you fail better.
Well, some people could say that you've been quite successful.
Yeah, I have nothing to complain about. And if you take issue with the music I've written, why, at least I've had a kind of a square, day job, being a professor and showing up and teaching classes, and hopefully inspiring younger musicians and helping them proceed.
Well, if you look, you're this immigrant Iowan kid, farm kid, and you've had this 50-year plus career in music, doing what you love. What do you think when you look back at that huge career? It's 50 years.
Well, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, actually, although I did start music when I was 4, so I could say I've been a musician for 65 years. In my private mythology, I date my professional life as a musician from May 1st, 1961, which was the end of my first year in New York, and it was the first paying job performing in New York that I did, and a very important concert of music by Edgar Varese. I remember I had to join the musicians union to play it because it was a union job, and I had to go out and rent a tuxedo. But in a way, I feel up to that time I was purely a student, and after that time I remained a student and kept learning, but for me that's where my professional life began. So that's, every May 1st I sort of light a little candle and say, well, that's number 45 or 46.
So you're at 47.
I'm at 46 now. I'm in the 47th year, yeah. Which makes me feel lucky in a way, because many people don't have that long, and also kind of makes me feel maybe I've been lazy, or compared to some people who have done a tremendous amount in a shorter amount of time. Maybe I feel I haven't done so much, but then I keep, just keep going anyway. And
well, you're retiring from teaching in a couple of years, 1 year?
Next July 1st, 2008, it will be effective.
So what is next for you in your career?
Well, basically, to focus more on the things that teaching and its discontents sometimes intrude on, and I'm just enjoying this past few months being on sabbatical, and just being able to work as long as I wanted to every day, with no things to run off to that I had to do, or concerts to go to, or students to meet. And because I've been teaching for over 40 years, so that's, I'm really looking forward to turning that over to somebody else who will take my place. And I have some plans for performing, and just in a very fortuitous way, have a solo flute piece written in 1959 by a very important Italian composer who was quite unrecognized in his lifetime, but in the last 20 years has become to be regarded as very significant. And this piece seems to be in no one's hands but my own. It's not listed in any of the publishers or catalogs or scholarly listings. So, here I am getting ready to present a work by this composer who's been dead 20 years. The piece was written 50 years ago, and this will be the first performance. So that's, I'm looking around for a place to premiere it, and probably in New York and Boston. I think there's a possibility there.
Can you imagine what your life would have been like without music in it?
Yeah. Hard to say. I think I would have, somehow been involved in literature or the arts. I just think I'm too much of a kind of, dreamer in some way, or maybe something involved with nature. I don't know. It's like nothing else ever really had a chance, and